Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. This is a podcast about the strange and unusual, the secret and conspiracies, the fringe and the supernatural. This is a show where we do little to no research on our topics. We are not professionals in any field except speculation. This is the Secret Transmission Podcast, and today we're going to talk about Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. I am your host, Toby, and sitting around me are my lovely, lovely co-hosts. Introduce yourselves.
Tyler.
Rudy.
Kristen.
So, today we are going to be talking about the Malaysian Air Flight 370.
Dun 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 dun.
Dun 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 dun.
Still unsolved.
It's still unsolved. Okay, so 2016, in case someone in the future is listening to this, as of today, it still has not been solved. Well, we'll get to all the details of what has been found and everything in a little while, but I made sure to be as current as I could be, and the latest article I could find was posted a day ago, and they were basically saying, what happened? We'll never know.
It's a mystery.
Yeah, it's a mystery forever.
Right.
So, let's go ahead and jump into it. Malaysian Airplane 370 started in Kuala Lumpur International Airport in Malaysia on a night flight in Beijing Capital International Airport in China on March 8th, 2014. Let's go ahead and throw this out there before we get too far into this. There's a lot of foreign words in this.
Why are you looking at me?
Because you've been calling me out lately on it.
On regular words, I wouldn't call you out on these words. Okay. These are, even some of these for me are like...
Kahlua? Like the drink?
Kahlua?
So, forgive us.
We'll let that one go.
Forgive us if any of these words are butchered. So now that disclaimer's out there.
I would have said koala. But that's just
Koala.
me.
Koala.
K-U-A-L-A. Koala.
So this normal trip from Kuala Lumpur to the Beijing airport is usually about 6 hours. To get straight there, 6 hours. On the airplane, they had... I was going to say ship. Let's say ship.
I thought you were going to say shit. When you started to say that. They had shit?
They had 12 crew members and 227 passengers. 152 of those were Chinese citizens. Kristen, would you please do me the pleasure of telling us about the pilot, the co-pilot, and the plane? Just a little information.
Okay, the flight was to be flown by 53-year-old Captain Zahari Ahmed Shah, who had been flying for 33 years. His co-pilot was 27-year-old First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid. He was training to fly the Boeing 777 aircraft. This flight was his last training flight before he was scheduled to be examined on his next flight. He had 2,763 hours of flying experience, and the 777 aircraft is one of the most automated airplanes in the world. The crew can type in the waypoint on the computer, and it's pretty much on cruise control after that.
So, with all that being said, right now, this isn't going to be an experience problem. I wouldn't think it was.
No.
Because you got one guy that's got 33 years of experience. The other guy, he's training, but he's got over almost 3,000 hours of airtime.
I'd say what I want to say, but then 90s. I'm sure Toby would be like,
what's that?
He was in his late, not late 90s, he was in his late 20s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's not like there was a issue with experience.
So it's on ground control issue where somebody else sat there and manipulated it through the control.
I don't know.
There could be a number of possibilities.
There's when we get to the
somebody could have hacked it.
Well,
that's
Sorry to bust your bubble at the very beginning.
So we're used to it.
Yeah, you always do it. There is a ton of theories though. So once we get to the theories, everyone's gonna have to pick one and stick with it. Because there's a bunch to pick from.
I already know mine, because I made it up.
Same here.
Okay, so 20 minutes after takeoff, they had reached their cruising altitude and were 35,000 feet in the air. All the crew had to do at this point was monitor the autopilot equipment until they got ready to land. The land controllers only keep track from Kuala Lumpur while the plane is in Malaysian airspace. Once the plane crosses the Gulf of Thailand, the land controllers in Vietnam start monitoring from there.
Right.
So they hand it off, basically, and you're not my problem anymore.
Right.
At 1:19 a.m., the controllers in Kuala Lumpur make one final transmission to the plane. It was just a normal controller-to-pilot conversation, and I've got just a snippet of the last transmission. I just want to play it so you can hear that no one's in distress.
Right.
It's just a normal conversation. You won't be able to understand it real clearly because, they have accents and whatnot.
Malaysian 370.
Malaysian 370, maintaining level 350.
Malaysian 370,
Malaysian 370. Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
So some of the last few transmissions right there, like I said, they're hard to understand. It says that the cockpit said Malaysian 370, maintaining level 350. Then the ground control said Malaysian 370. They said 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 100.9 good night, and cockpit said good night Malaysian 370.
So they're ending their contact with each other.
Right, because that was
they were at a stable level and everything. And
right, and so they were going to be handed off basically to Beijing, and they were going to start taking over the watching the radar for them to make sure nothing went wrong. So you said past experiences in the Navy, you had to hear airplane chatter? That's about normal?
That's about normal.
Does any of that make any sense to you?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense for air traffic controllers.
Okay, so nothing unusual, no distress, no panic. Sounds like just a calm conversation between them, since you've actually have experience hearing them.
Yeah.
If anything, the pilot sounds bored.
Yeah,
that's exactly how it is every time.
Well, yeah, he's about to hit cruise control and just sit back and play Pokemon Go.
Right.
Not that long ago.
It's one of those things where we think it's cool, but they're like, yeah, I'm at work.
Yeah. So, basically, the crew should have contacted the Beijing controllers, and within about a minute after the last transmission to Kuala Lumpur. I keep saying it different, I feel like.
Well, yeah, we'll do it all different, I'm sure.
So, 19 minutes later, I guess it's Vietnam, Beijing, whoever it was, the other controllers still hadn't heard from their flight.
You'd think that they would like the ground control people would converse with each other to say, hey, we're flipping it over, and make sure that they're still in contact at the same time.
Well, they've also...
And then they transfer it over.
You gotta think
you know what I'm saying?
They're dealing with a bunch of other airplanes coming in and out.
Right, but if you ever seen one of those control rooms, I mean, there's more than one person in there. So, I mean, they could be like, hey, I'm with you until this happens. Because it is kind of like it's not an emergency situation, but it is, it's a life or death situation. So it's like, hey, I'm going to stay with you, and I'm going to make sure you get over to this ground control, and then I'll let you go, and then they take over. And maybe that's not how it is, but if it isn't, then that's how y'all should do it from now on, and I am copyrighting that bullshit.
According to the timeline here, the last time they checked in was at 1:19 in the morning.
Yep.
At 1:21, the Vietnam Civil Aviation Authority noted that they failed to check in 2 minutes later.
Right.
So they're constantly checking on them. So there was already concern 2 minutes later that they didn't check in.
But I'm saying what I would do is just stay with them until I'm able to transfer them over, and then.
Well, that's basically what they were doing.
Yeah, they do that sort of.
But they didn't wait for somebody else on the other side, or wait. I'd make sure everybody else is like saying something like. The flight is saying something and like, hey, you got them? Can you hear them too?
I'm sure they were, and then they were like 2 minutes later. They're like, we haven't heard from these guys yet. Where are they? Vietnam was
that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like I'd be like, hey, I am talking to the flight, and they're like, okay, we're good night, blah blah, and then I'd be like, hey, talk to the other Beijing flight thing, but also say, hey, can you hear me to Flight 370?
Oh, like all three of them.
Oh,
at
Yes,
once.
and then
Okay.
transfer them over to them. Like, make sure
Gotcha.
there's complete
Make sure-
contact
yeah.
all the way through.
Yeah, I guess that would make sense, but
Yeah.
I don't know why they don't do that.
I don't know how their signals work.
So yeah, that's the
But
thing.
I mean, if it's a walkie-talkie, you can pick it up anywhere else, so too.
That's the thing, though. You get a bad look angle, you lose signal for a little bit. You're in a dead zone. I mean,
guess so,
it
yeah.
happens all the time. We lose tracks, and all we can do is log it because we can't reach. There's no communication, we can't reach out to them
Right.
So
to
that
tell them to come reach out to us.
so that would explain why it took about 19 minutes before people started panicking, because they probably give you a few minutes of leadway because
And that's
dead zones do happen.
that's exactly what happens.
So both control towers kept constantly trying to contact the plane to figure out where they were going. The plane was using a system called the ACARS, the Aircraft Communication Addressing and Reporting System. This basically is a GPS, keeps track of them.
Right.
On March 11th, 3 days after the disappearance, military data records show the flight continued after the last transmission for 7 to 8 hours. They would have had enough fuel to fly that long, some think. 3 minutes after the last transmission, though, Flight 370 made a sharp turn off the normal course. This led the belief of the hijacking. This is where the hijacking started, because it was such a sharp left turn that they were almost going back. They almost did a 180. That's how sharp the turn was.
Right.
So ground control knew they were doing that.
Not until the next day when they used the ACARS system to check to see where the GPS was taking them.
So they would pretty much had to have held like the captain hostage in order to make them make it go into override, because didn't they say that it was to where it would be just all automated and where it would go on its own. So
Right.
somebody had to have made it to where they were scared enough to make it where it wouldn't do that
We have to talk a lot.
and go into override.
Right. Now, not only did they make that first sharp turn, but they also turned 2 more times within the next couple hours of the 7 to 8 hours. On March 24th, Malaysian government said the final location determined by the satellite communications is far from any possible landing sites, and came to the conclusion that Flight 370 ended in the southern Indian Ocean.
I'm showing her the map of
Oh.
where they projected, the projections were.
In October 2014, they searched about 1,800 kilometers southwest of Perth, Western Australia.
Like he said, it did a hell of an angle because it's supposed to be
Right.
going this way, and it sharped off right there, and then it sharped off right there into the ocean. That's the last known transmission they had of it.
I'm thinking of my mental map. Can I see where you? Okay, yeah, that's exactly.
Rudy pulled up a map and he's showing everyone. It's
the Strait of Morocco.
Can you kind of describe it? I know that's kind of hard to do on an audio show.
Well, they have Lumpur as the starting point, and it's going north and slightly east up to Beijing, the original flight path.
Right.
And then just when they got over the ocean northeast of Malaysia is when it veered off southwest.
Right.
Like very southwest.
Was it almost close to a 180 damn near?
There's a good 30-degree angle still from the
Okay.
original takeoff point.
So that wasn't too far
And then
off.
it takes another turn right, and then it disappears over what he said was the strait.
Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah.
Or
But
sorry, Strait of Morocco.
So even if they were hit from ground or anything like that, they still have that black box, so what it's called.
Right.
So that sort of
They haven't
still
found
would have
that.
They can't
recorded
find- they
everything.
can't find
They can't
it.
find the
Oh.
black box. That's the
They
problem.
can't find the whole plane.
And that
Well,
last
then I'm sure
They
somebody
found bits and
stole it
pieces.
then.
that last known position was from a military radar too.
Right.
So maybe they went into military grounds and
Well, like you were saying about finding stuff a second ago, they found on July 29th, 2015, they found the flaperon, or whatever it's called, the flapper part where
Yes.
that controls the airplane.
yeah, the black
Right.
part.
It washed ashore of Reunion Island.
Is that near Africa or somewhere down there?
I think that's.
I think that's where I heard about a piece, but they couldn't identify if it was from that.
This
plane or
one they
not.
did, but they have said that they have found other little bits of debris.
Maybe they don't have as strong as currents and deeper waters there.
Those currents are pretty strong.
Are they?
Well, during depending on what season it is. When I was there, it was bad.
Was it?
Yeah, we
That's the only
were.
thing I could think of why it took so long for it to come up.
So here's some of the things that make this case so interesting. The crew never had a distress signal, like we said. No indications of bad weather. No technical problems reported. It was later revealed that the captain would allow people into the cockpit. Like, I think somewhere on social media or something, it was showing him posing with people in the cockpit, which is not allowed. So there could have been some kind of foul play of him like, oh, you want to come in to see the cockpit? Just any random stranger.
Right.
So that could be a problem. 2 of the passengers on the flight had stolen passports. So that immediately starts looking like a hijacking. But here's some of the reasons it may not have been a hijacking.
But I mean, for them to just now find things, I mean, it had to be blown to like smithereens. Like, that'd be pretty freaking hardcore of a bomb that they were carrying on there and
Not
got away
necessarily.
with.
Well, no one even said it was a bomb.
I mean, but if it was, I mean, that was what the case was, and then they can't find it, and that's
Like
why.
a hijacker with a
Yeah.
bomb blowing up the plane is what you mean?
Yeah. Or I mean, even if not then, I mean, then.
What we've even seen in the past, though, if someone's going to hijack a plane, they're going to turn it into a weapon rather than just blow it up in midair. Like, they're going to crash it into something, more than
You
likely.
remember the
Depends
story
on your
after this
religion,
one
I
of
guess.
the one guy who was going to blow up the plane, and he was sitting by the window, and he blew it up, or he set the bomb off, and only him flew out. Everyone else was fine.
Really?
That's crazy.
Oh,
You know-
And they managed to land safely. One dead extremist terrorist, and that was it.
oh,
Because-
that's crazy.
Because they weren't quite high enough for it to really do any damage to the cabin or anything, so
right.
they were able to.
So I guess
they were
that
able
does
to land.
happen. People are
Yeah.
just like, I don't know,
Well,
this is a good
was
spot.
that recent?
That was that was within this
That's
year.
the only reason.
Okay,
Yeah.
I
Like-
thought I remember hearing about that one.
Right.
Indian reason why. That's the only reason why. Because I know a lot of them are like suicide bombers, and that's the only reason why I say that. It's like, I mean, if it was that reasoning, which they were just to blow it up or something, then that would be the reason. You know, it'd have to be pretty high
Well,
I don't-
tech to do
here's
that.
why I don't
But if
think-
it's
here's why I
not
don't
that,
think they
then
blew
I'm
it up
saying.
because after the sharp turn, they make another turn. They keep going,
yeah, they
and
could,
there's even reports later that they were spotting that plane
So maybe there's
transmission like
a-
8 hours later.
yeah,
a
like
struggle?
7 to 8
I
hours.
mean,
Like
maybe
they
there's
were-
a struggle.
Yeah, well, we don't. I mean, there's a lot of theories, but it seems to look like they just ran out of fuel because that's what the last point that people think that they got to would have been like it for their fuel, and then that's when they would have gone down, or that's what they kind of estimate, anyways. But here's a few reasons of why this may not have been a hijacking. There are many ways for the pilot to communicate that something is wrong. They could use the radios. You know, just turn it on, say, Mayday, Mayday, whatever. They have emergency frequencies that they can flip on where they don't even have to say anything. They could... The ACARS system was already working. Or they can put a code in the transponders and it'll instantly let everyone know that the plane is hijacked. They call that squawking.
Here's something about that too.
That's my
though.
job.
Here's something-
Really?
Yeah.
Here's
We're-
something about that
all the
too, that
modes.
they reported that something odd was happening because one of the transponders was shut off, and then like a few minutes later, the other one was shut off.
Right. For about 2 or 3 minutes or
Right.
something like that.
Well, after like 2 or 3 minutes, the second one was shut off. Somebody shut off the transponders. Somebody
Right.
knew enough about that plane to shut it off.
Which they shouldn't know enough
Right.
unless they've been around it a long time, maybe?
Right.
What about cell phones? Like, I mean,
They're not
like,
going to work up there.
They're not.
No.
There's no signal, and I mean,
There's no
unless you're
towers.
close to land, there's
Yeah.
no signal.
And when they got jacked, they weren't close to land. Like, they were already far enough out to where
Oh.
they would have been far enough out. So about, like, the squawking and stuff, is there... I mean,
There's different codes for everything. Hijacking.
is it an easy, like, if I was sitting in a cockpit, is there going to be, which I know you don't know.
I've never seen that side of it.
Okay.
All I see
I
is
was
that-
wondering if there was, like, some kind
I'm-
of button that you could just flip one thing and then it would the signal out. Or
So on any radar, or well, military radars or whatever, it's gonna say like if you were to click on that, or that contact would show, and it'll be like they're showing a mode, whatever it is, if they're getting hijacked.
really?
And if y'all are out there, then y'all respond.
Yeah, I mean we'll take appropriate measures depending on if it's one of us or some whatever country,
Cause don't y'all keep flight equipment on y'all ship, don't y'all?
like airplanes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Safe to know. You never know.
They also have jetpacks.
We do.
That's
true.
Those damn reptilians.
So, a couple other weird
Blinking sideways.
things that happened during this flight. Like Rudy said, 2 minutes after the last transmission, the transponder cuts out. A few minutes later, the ACAR system cuts out. They were carrying 487 pounds of highly flammable lithium-ion batteries.
Someone knew about that.
They found on the ACAR system that every hour from 2:25 a.m. until 8:19 a.m., it would receive a ping from the flight and that it was continuing to move. They had, like I said earlier, they had enough fuel to keep going for as long as the pings continued. That's why they think it traveled.
Why
where.
would they even...
Well-
I'm still confused on the battery part. Why would they even think that's... Like, that should have been a whole cargo plane on its own.
We don't know yet. I mean, we don't know why that was all on there.
Wouldn't they carry, packages every once in a while for companies?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, like
passenger-
bodies and stuff like that. But, I mean, surely enough, somebody at the... I mean, it doesn't take a genius to be like, hey, this isn't safe. You need to sit there and either do this or you need to hire a cargo plane for it. Like, we're not going to carry this much freaking lithium battery on there for a whole entire flight. Like, that's just stupid.
You said it was a 6-hour flight?
Yeah, it would have been a 6-hour flight normally.
Okay, because that was like 6 hours. 2 to 8 is what you said?
Yeah, well, I
Is
mean,
when
you
they
gotta
had
think they
contact?
probably have a little more fuel to get them.
No, all I was
just
saying
know
was...
I'm not flying anymore.
it's kinda weird that it
unless
was,
I know what's going on.
it's a 6-hour flight, but they had contact on for 6 hours, but I guess they did divert or something.
Yeah, well, they had contact. I mean, their flight left. I mean, they lost contact at 1:22, and at 8:20 or so is when they think that the flight crashed or was done or whatever happened.
Well, I hope all your childhood
Aliens.
stars are within driving
That
distance,
actually
Toby,
is one
because
of the
we ain't
theories.
going
I
flying.
figured.
Yeah.
Because dogs, I'll fly with dogs in the cockpit. That's fine. And
What?
they bring animals. Animals are down below too. But I ain't driving no lithium batteries.
Oh, you're not gonna ride in a plane if it has lithium batteries?
No, I want to know what's in the bottom of it. Shit.
I'm not getting on this plane until you tell me what's in this plane.
But you think they would
What's
have
in
to
this
tell?
cargo
You think they'd
hold?
have to tell people that though?
I mean, if it's somebody's equipment, they're not gonna... I mean...
It's different from equipment like camera or movie things, but like a whole freaking like plane of batteries, like that's something different. That's something that should be notified, and you could be like, "Hey, you can either take this flight or you can't."
There was a battery salesman.
Motherfucker must be the battery salesman of the year.
He bought a shitload of
God.
lithium-ion batteries, and he was going to sell them in Beijing and make a killing.
they do all kinds of technology, or they wouldn't surprise
Right,
me, though.
right. Let's take a small break, and then we'll come back and get into more theories of what possibly happened. We'll be right back.
I didn't know there was batteries.
So he says, that's how you get inside out wiener.
Oh, sorry. Didn't see you there. We were just talking about a new favorite podcast, the Careless Deviation Podcast.
Oh yes, those boys are the best.
The show feels like you're just sitting on the porch with an old friend. Kim Kardashian says it's like a cold drink of tea on a warm summer day.
Oh, and they are. See, I was gonna end it all, and these boys saved my life. I came home drunk one day, lit a cigarette, fell asleep, burned the whole house down. Lost the kids and the wife. They brought me back from the edge, they did.
We've all been there. Tom here slept with my wife while I was out of town. When I found out, I went to his house to kittle him. When I showed up, he was listening to Careless Deviation. Well, needless to say, I dumped that fat whore, and Tom and I became the best of friends.
Now we're like two peas in a pod.
Podcast, that is. You can find them on Stitcher and iTunes.
Don't forget their website, carelessdeviationpod.com.
Oh, and make sure you follow them on Twitter at DeviationPod. And they will be on YouTube soon, so keep an eye out for that. New episodes every Wednesday.
Careless Deviation, your new old friend.
Hey there, fellow podcast fans. Do you love comic books, and especially Swamp Thing? Get out of the bayou. So do we. Come check out the Parlapod Show, the world's only podcast dedicated to the muck-encrusted mockery of a man himself, Swamp Thing. This is some serious arcane audio as we chat with comic book professionals, reviews, spoofs, talk about back issues. Everything swampy under the sun happens here. Give us a listen at parlapod.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, Podomatic, our YouTube channel, and we're on every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern on podcastradionetwork.net. Join your hosts, Dave and John, parlapod.com. Let's go into the green. We'll see you in the swamps.
Okay, we are back from our break.
You sound rejuvenated.
I do. I feel better now.
That's good.
Stretched and peed. Anyway, so let's get back to this podcast that we're on. Y'all are assholes. Son of a bitches.
Where's Kermit?
Yeah. Holy shit. Go listen to that episode.
Okay.
And you'll hear how derailed I was the entire fucking time.
Nice.
Okay, so one of the other many theories is for the crashing of this plane or whatever has happened to this plane. Some believe a fire could be the answer. The electronics failing and why they tried to turn back to land with, like, go back towards land with such a sharp turn.
Right.
But the cargo bay fire alarm would have sounded before any major damage was done to the electrical system. So they would have been able to send out the signal. So unless the fire detectors were malfunctioned or something, that's not really... You know, they would have had plenty of time to be like, there's a fire on board. And the first sharp turn, yeah, it could have gone back to land. But then Flew?
Yeah. Good enough.
They flew for 7 more hours.
Well, let me ask you this.
Flowed.
If the transponders were shut off, what's to say that all the other safety features were shut off? That would indicate, danger on board. So, I'm just asking questions here.
No. I mean, that's a good point. Like, if everything got shut down at once, a fire still could be possible. Like, everything would have to malfunction at once or be shut off, whichever it is. So, that is still a possibility. But the fact that it supposedly flew?
They should put one stewardess in charge to where, like, I mean, I know that it's offshore and everything, like, but they should put one stewardess in charge to where they could actually be able to respond back to land secretively.
Like from the back?
Mm-hmm. Like marshals?
Yeah,
like a marshal.
So,
but, like, but
with that being said,
they're kind of, even though they're secretive, who's the marshal on the plane.
If
I
they
fly all the time, I've never seen a marshal.
I was going to say, do they have a marshal program overseas like that, like we do?
But if they don't, then they should. But, I mean, like, they should keep...
I have no idea.
But even not a marshal, then they should keep, like, a flight stewardess. Like, you're the person in charge. Because, at least they expect as a screaming girl to go, like, to stay calm and keep coerce about things.
Well, here's one of the other theories. If they did have this person in the back that was, like, communicating with whoever... Another theory is that it could have been a pressurization problem. If the cabin didn't have pressure correctly,
Turning that sharply, yeah.
Hold on. If the cabin didn't pressurize correctly, it could have sucked out all the oxygen out of the plane and caused everyone to pass out. This could explain why the plane kept flying using an autopilot and no signals were sent out. Except the plane made 3 turns and...
Now, if the hijackers were able to depressurize the cabin, knock everyone the hell out, but they had their own oxygen masks readily available, that's a possibility.
Right.
Because my grandfather was an aviation mechanic, and he goes, because I asked him, I said, how do people not make any kind of phone calls, text message, distress signal, something, if something's going on? If you look out the window and you're like, hey, isn't that Malaysia again? And he goes, if you can depressurize the cabin, like you said, quick enough, you can knock everyone the hell out and kill them.
Before they even can fight it.
Right. They wouldn't even know what happened.
You just fall asleep.
Pretty much. It's like a sleep death. So,
That's pretty good. I like that.
That theory.
That theory.
So you're so far right now. You're on the boat that says that hijacker depressurized it.
I like the theory, but
it's a good movie. Like that would be a good like little action scene in a movie or something.
And it makes sense on certain levels,
right?
Know?
So, but like you said, that's the only way. Otherwise, there is no possible way. If everyone was passed out because of no oxygen, they wouldn't have been able to make those 3 turns.
Right.
If they would have just kept going straight, that would have made more sense. Because they were all passed out. Autopilot has got them going in the right direction.
Unless that their cockpit is like completely different pressurized than
but like you said
passengers.
earlier, if it was open and he was taking Snapchats with people.
Yeah, but
and
he
people
probably
had
wouldn't have been at
access
this
to it.
point in time though.
Well, I mean, he was taking. There's a lot of pictures on like social media of.
Yeah, but that's probably like, you know. I mean, I could see that, but I'm just saying like, unless they have, you know, it's pressurized difference, and then they
Right.
get extra fed to them.
If they knocked
They
everyone,
could still have it open, and they could still have it open, and they still have more fed to them, and it still make it to where they would stay longer.
if they knocked everyone else out, I mean, the stewardess still has keys to the cockpit.
What if they were all on it together?
Well, there's theories that'll support that in a minute. Another theory is kind of what Kristen was saying earlier about a cyber hack. So they could take over the plane using satellite data, and and spoof the data. That way, it would show that the plane was still moving and turning and doing everything that it did.
Right.
But it could have just been hijacked from a computer. So the other theory is the pilot was behind it all.
Because he had a flight simulator in his house.
Right. He had a bunch of really weird stuff, but all the flight data was deleted from it when they recovered it.
Right.
So another theory is we'll get back to the captain theory in a minute. Some of the other theories are a terrorist hijacked the plane and flew to Afghanistan and were keeping the crew and passengers hostage. That's the one I remember hearing when all this happened, afterwards. Another theory is the U.S. had authorized the plane to be shot down because it was carrying a nuclear warhead to North Korea.
This
Like
one,
1,000
everyone looks at me.
lithium batteries?
Yeah, those batteries.
Wait, you said to North Korea?
North Korea.
But they were headed to Beijing.
Well, they were
North
taking
Korea.
a sharp turn. I don't know which way North Korea
Like
is.
they
Hey,
were
you know
heading
what?
there?
I think North Korea has enough nukes as it is.
Now, I don't know where North Korea is on this map, but the final location and where the flight path was, it was headed toward the Middle East.
Right.
It was going to go over India and then the Middle East.
But you gotta think, though, in order for this to, like, even be, like, even if it was a weapon, like, I get that it was controlled computerally, but, like, if they could override it, then that means you would have to go through at least, there's 2 people in, like, the pilot area. There's at least 3 stewardesses at all times.
There's 12 crew members
then
on this
you
plane.
have, like you said, there's the marshal.
Well, this one
That's
may not have had a
4,
marshal.
5,
Right.
6. I
True,
think
since it,
yeah, but I
since
mean,
it's out of country or whatever.
yeah,
they
but
don't-
I mean, most time they do, like you said, put a marshal in there. I just didn't really think about that. So I mean, there's at least 6 people that you'd have to go through and like make okay with this whole entire situation.
Which is why it's unexplained, is because they literally have no idea what
Right,
happened
but
to
I
this
mean,
plane.
like, you know, like if it was planned,
Right.
is what I'm saying. Like that's 6
I mean,
people.
You're inside that plane. You have no clue what's going on inside
Right.
that
Like
cockpit.
I'm a passenger, yes, but like if you're, but
Stewardess. I mean,
I'm saying like
co-pilot,
I'm
yeah.
saying if they did have something to do with it, then that is 6 people they'd have to go through, or because if you're a captain or you fly a plane, like you're really close to your stewardess because you usually fly with the same stewardess
Well,
all the time.
We'll get to the captain theory in a minute because all your questions are going to get answered here in a minute with all that.
Good, they better.
So here's another big theory. There was a patent filed by Freescale. If you're interested, the patent number is number 8671381. This was approved days after the disappearance of the plane. the rights to the patent was going to be split by 5 different people. They were going to get 20% each of the patent, whatever it made. So apparently,
Microchips.
Was it microchips?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I read that and I had to look into it.
I was going to look into it, but I had enough information on here.
It's a Texas-based company, I know that. And
was it Austin, Texas?
I think so.
I can't remember.
So, apparently, 4 of the 5 patent holders were on the plane when it went down. So a lot of people point at foul play, that maybe one was very greedy and had someone take the plane out for some reason, because it was going to make them rich, apparently. Whatever the microchip was. A retired Delta Airlines captain, McConnelly, thinks the plane was seized to obtain stealth knowledge of classified patents from 22 Chinese employees of the Austin-based Freescale. So they think that it was either they were trying to knock off the 4 patent holders, or someone was trying to get the patent information from whatever.
Right.
So those are 2 decent theories, I suppose. I mean, decent as any other ones.
Makes sense on why you'd want to hijack a plane way out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
No targets.
But I don't know, like, according to Rudy's, like, pictures, though, it wasn't, like, out in the middle of nowhere. Like, I mean, it wasn't that far off coast.
But there are a lot of little small islands where you can land a plane right there in that area, too, on the map. And, they talk about that as well. There's a few little places right there. There's also places that are, like, no-fly zones over in the Middle Eastern countries.
It's not, like, out in the middle of nowhere. Like, you are stranded. Like, you can't have anywhere else to go.
So, let me give you some more of the captain theory story, okay? Because there's a lot that goes with the captain theory. Captain Zahara Hamad Shah, whatever his name is, his wife and 3 children moved out of the house the day before the disappearance. A friend of the captain said he was seeing another woman and that relationship was kind of getting a little rocky. These claims have been denied by the family, though. Another pilot said that the captain was terribly upset that his marriage was falling apart. Apparently, the captain had a 2-minute phone call right before the flight took off with someone using a cell phone with an account using a false identity.
Yeah, but even in that lifestyle, aren't they the ones that are known for having multiple wives? Like,
no,
not necessarily. No, not all of them. Not all cultures do the multi-wife thing.
Or where the wife doesn't have a say-so in it. Like,
I mean, we don't know that culture really, so
I know, but I'm just saying, like,
that is a good point, though. Women really don't get much control over.
Yeah, right. Where they're like, "Oh, you're cheating on me. I'm leaving."
Yeah, but it's one of the theories, and like they've also explained that the captain could have easily told his co-pilot, "Hey, will you run back there and get me a coffee?" Because apparently that's a normal routine, is to have the co-pilot go grab stuff while you're still flying. So it could have been easy for him to say, "Hey, do you mind stepping out and going to get me a coffee, or wait until he goes to the restroom?" Or maybe and locking him out, because if that door is locked, you can't get in.
Yeah.
So,
depressurize that cabin. You got control of that plane. You
yeah,
do whatever you want.
The captain could do anything at that point, and no one's going to be able to break that door down.
So the new guy could have done anything he wanted to.
No, not the new guy. The captain. The captain.
Why couldn't the new guy have done it? Because he knew it a lot too.
I mean, that's a possibility too. Right. But everyone thinks the captain, because they've said that, he was sad, he got caught cheating, or whatever the excuses are.
He had personal issues.
It's one of those things, I've always said in a couple episodes now, I feel like people go back, like when something tragic happens, people go back and they he was depressed before this happened. Like, they kind of start adding stuff to...
Yeah, they find it.
I don't know, I always go back to the Ed Gein thing. In our Ed Gein episode, I talk about how, was he crazy to the town before the murders, or before they found the bodies and stuff? It wasn't murders, but like, did they go back and say, "Oh, you know what? He was crazy. He did have that crazy look in his eyes." I don't know. I just feel like sometimes people
he was lost.
Go back and add stuff.
Right. He was emotionally distressed.
So some of the best theories. You want to hear them?
Yeah.
These are the most interesting. These are the most out there. Take a breath. The plane was sucked into a black hole. A meteor hit the plane.
Okay.
The plane was abducted by aliens. The plane was abducted by time travelers. The plane was abducted by beings from a different dimension. All these are theories, actual theories that people believe.
One of my favorites, the Bermuda Triangle's moved.
For them?
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't seen that one.
Yeah, I came across that one.
God.
Yeah.
That's pretty out there.
They picked 3 spots with 3 little islands right there.
Yeah. So they got their own mini.
They got their own
triangle.
Yeah, they got another triangle out there now.
People also think that Pitbull and Shakira's song released in 2012, "Get It Started," predicts Flight 370's disappearance.
Okay.
Do you have a clue of that?
Yeah.
I don't have the song, but I have the lyrics right here. The lyrics people think predict it are, "Now it's off to Malaysia." And the other set of lyrics are, "2 passports, 3 cities, 2 countries, 1 day." And "No Ali, no Fraser, but for now off to Malaysia." Mr. Ali was the media outlet called one of the men that had the stolen passport, even after they figured out what his real name was. The 2 passports refers to the stolen passports, obviously.
Right.
So, people tried to make a connection from this song. Sorry.
Here's one for you if you want to hear something kind of weird. A little fun fact about the plane. It was the 404th 777 that was made by Boeing. 404 HTTP error means not found.
Weird.
Right. Now I wasn't able to verify that, but if that's true, then that's kind of out there.
Right. Well,
you know what I mean?
is this the... Okay, I can't remember for sure, but there was a... do you know what I'm about to say? Mm-mm. So, when one of the planes crashed several years ago, there was a newscaster reading the captain's names.
Uh-huh.
And I... You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about.
Hold on. I need to look this up. Because it is ridiculous.
We Too Low or something?
Yeah, We Too Low was one of the pilots' names. Because they were, like, Asian of some sort.
Right.
Holy hell or something. Holy shit. Yeah. And she read it was a joke.
Right.
But she read them on the air. Hold on. We're going to take a small break so I can try to find out what flight this was for and the newscaster that said all the names and everything. So we'll be right back with that groundbreaking old information. We'll be right back.
What up, everybody? This your boy B-Rob, the host of the Random Ramblers with Rob podcast. Join me once weekly as I talk about random stuff, I guess. So if you enjoy things out of the norm and anything like that, give me a listen. I'm on iTunes, Stitcher, and all those other cool places. Or if you like Walmart like I do, you can follow me on Instagram at randomramblingsw_Rob and follow my Walmart log, hashtag Walmart log. Matter of fact, if you want to find me, look up the hashtag RRRPC. That's 3 R's, PC. That stands for Random Ramblers with Rob podcast. It's random, I know. Also, if you want to find me on Twitter, you can hit me up at RRR_podcast. That's 3 R's _podcast. Also, go to my website, randomrobcast.com. That way, you can support the podcast by buying some merch. Hell, my wife even wrote a book. It's called Dark Deception. It's down there. Go to the homepage, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll see all that cool stuff. So, thank you. Appreciate you. Be random.
All right, so what should we do for this ad, Michael?
Okay, Michael, let me paint you a picture. It's a cold November morning over Lake Travis. Picture you with a Speedo and nothing else. A Texas flag Speedo.
I like it.
Then imagine out of the woods comes a giant monster truck with a Texas flag sticking out of the back.
Cool.
All right, the truck skids to a stop. I roll down the window and I say, "Get in." Then you say, "Come and take it."
I'm not sure we can afford that for the ad. Maybe we should say we're the TX Files and we cover weird and scary history from Texas and you should give us a listen.
I mean, if you want to half-ass it.
All right, well, don't forget that you can find us on iTunes and follow us on Twitter at TX_Files. Thanks, y'all.
Peace.
Okay, so we are back. And now I'm going to play that clip for you. And so you can hear. It's not of Flight 370 like I thought it was. It's a different flight, but it's Flight like 214 or something. So here's that clip.
We have new information now also on the plane crash. KTVU has just learned the names of the 4 pilots who were on board the flight. They are Captain Sum Ting Wong, Wee Tu Lo, Ho Li Fook, and Bang Ding Ao. The NTSB has confirmed these are the names of the pilots on board Flight 214 when it crashed. We are working to determine exactly what roles each of them played during the landing on Saturday.
So, no, that's definitely not the flight that we were thinking of, but those names. What do you think of those names, since we brought it up?
That's funny and wrong all at the same time.
Yeah, it's very wrong.
Well, and it was a recent tragedy too.
It was a couple years ago, I think. I didn't.
I mean, at the time.
Yeah, it was fresh. Like
right.
It just happened. That's how fresh it was.
Right.
So a satire news company also reported on Flight 370, saying that the captain was in Taiwan somehow, just appeared in Taiwan, but he couldn't remember anything that happened. So when you got stuff like that also popping up, it starts adding to the rumors of everything else, the theories and stuff.
Right.
On March 9th, 2014, the Chinese news media received a letter claiming to be the leader of a Chinese brigade of some sort. They were basically just pissed, and they claimed that they were behind it. It was dismissed. It was dismissed since they had no details on the flight that weren't already public.
Right.
So, a similar case happened to where a plane went missing. In Air France Flight 447 disappeared over the Atlantic in 2009. They did find debris within a few days, but it took over 2 years to find the rest of the plane.
Right.
The difference between this case and Malaysia Flight 370 was the area to search for Flight 370 was 3 times bigger than the search area for France 447, and that took 2 years to find.
Right.
So they have a much bigger area to search for this plane. So that's why it hasn't been found yet. So with all those theories being said, which one do you believe in the most?
Want me to go first?
Go for it.
Alright, here's what I think. I think the Chinese government had a chance for a 2-for-1. They had the microchip guys which were on board, right? Mm-hmm. Now, while I was doing research on this, I read that part of the manifest of the passengers, 19 of them were prominent artists from China who had gone to whatever the name of the place was.
Kuala
Lumpur. Right. They'd gone there for an art show and were on their way back. Now, while I was looking that up, I was listening to the TV, and there were journalists in China, and they were talking about how China is real hot and heavy on squashing individual rights. And artists are their biggest targets, because what's more free spirit than an artist?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So you've got 19 artists coming back. You've got the microchip guys coming back. There were like 21 employees, from what I read, from that company that was on the plane too.
Free something.
Right. So why not? Why not hire a guy, get on there, hijack the plane?
We'll make your family rich,
right,
or whatever the reasoning is.
Right. You get the software guys with the microchips, and then you get rid of the artists. Boom. You got a 2-for-1 deal. And from what I understand, China is shady enough to do that, even though we don't want to talk about that. So, there's one, you can look her up. Her name's like something Wang. She's like a little teenage girl.
That'll be an easy search.
She does these weird, really obscure pieces of artwork that's like fashion. She's the only one who's been able to get away with it because of how popular she became at like an alarming rate.
Right.
So they're like, we can't kill her. We have to keep this image up that we like artists. But anytime, because these journalists were interviewing her, of course, she did a little weird art piece on camera. But when it came time for the fashion show, the guards were like, no, you guys stay the hell out.
Really?
Right. You out. You out. So, I'm thinking it's the Chinese government. They got a hell of a deal. This plane was full of people that they wanted. Why not?
So any particular reason why the crew or anyone couldn't... I mean, do you think it was a depressurization? Do you think it was a fire? Do you think...
The depressurization of the cabin would make the most sense. You can knock everyone out while still
But
breathing.
what about flying for 8 hours?
You land somewhere. Or you land somewhere, swap out the transponders, the black box, and you just keep going with another plane. Put it on a Cessna. They're going to think it's the plane. Or not a Cessna. Cessna couldn't get that altitude. But it depends on what the altitude was. You can put it on another plane and fake it. You have the plane sitting right here, and you have the transponders way the hell over there. They're not looking here. They're looking where it went.
Right. Well, and that could be part of the GPS spoofing that they were talking about.
Right.
Tyler, what do you think?
The only thing that makes sense is a black hole appeared out of nowhere. Just like that shit.
Is that what you're sticking with?
That's what I'm sticking with. It's the only thing that makes sense.
What do you think, Kristen?
I believe that it was land control. I believe they made it go down from land.
Like they hijacked it from land?
Since it's computer based anyway, I believe that it was able to be brought down by a computer.
Someone just hijacking it and maybe trying to test out the controls. That's why they turned so sharp. Who knows?
Or no, that's probably when they were gaining control of it.
It seems like a turn that sharp would throw everyone.
Well, at
you gotta think, if you're not used to controlling it from ground, but it is a computer-based and computer-controlled thing, it's like a video game. Like, you're not kind of used to that, so it's gonna make a sharp turn because you don't really know exactly how to control it just then.
Right. Here's another possibility to back her up. If you can get in and spoof the instruments, because at night they're flying off their instruments.
Mm-hmm.
If you can make the altimeter look like it's banking, and then they have to correct all of a sudden, or if it looks like they're heading northeast, more east than north, they're going to bank all of a sudden. The pilots.
But if it's really late, then they probably were sleeping.
Right. Well.
So they probably didn't even really know.
Well, no, I mean they were still awake, obviously, because they just got off.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Right.
yeah, they did, but I mean, they could have been inside, and they could have been. I mean, I think it was probably a mixture of both. There's probably
Someone
one
inside and
person
someone
on the
on the ground.
inside and someone on the ground who made amends with each other.
I think I'm gonna go with the captain theory.
You think it's him?
I mean, it just seems like if those stories are true about like him going through a
taking
breakup,
pictures and shit like that, like, is completely different than like wasting away a lot of other people's lives. Like, no one knows a backstory of the guy who was with him.
No, I'm talking about like he maybe had lured the co-pilot out of the cockpit, locked the door, and just said, "Hey, we're going where I want to go." Because there's
right,
one.
But what if the
thing-
co-pilot has been there this whole entire time, and he's the one who has had the mad like sense of humor about it all, and he's like, "This is the time I've been waiting for, and I'm gonna take him down."
The co-pilot.
Yeah, the co-pilot.
Yeah, I mean it could have been the co-pilot, but I'm saying
Toby's theory is the pilot.
I would go with the pilot theory just because if all those facts are true about him having a mistress and everything kind of going rocky, he's an older man. I could easily see that, like, just a depressed moment, because there was one report that said something about the plane was going towards his home country, his home, wherever he lived, and it was pointing in that direction. I don't know if that's true or not.
Right.
But supposedly it was going towards that direction. So I don't know if that has anything to do with anything, but if all those facts are true, it kind of really points at that to me.
And we also, I'm going to do a throwback here to the cult episode that we did. People do weird things under emotional stress.
Right.
And if he was stressed out when he took off, who knows?
Yep.
Who knows what he did?
And I mean, any of these theories are really good, actually. I mean, you can really just point at one, just like we all did. We all picked a different one, except Tyler picking the black hole theory.
But why wouldn't
they
they
haven't found it yet? It's the only one that makes sense.
That's what I'm saying. Like, why wouldn't they have found more atoms? Like, if it was just, and that's
that
where I'm kind of
Rudy's.
confused about is because it's like, how come if it is the pilot or the co-pilot, like, and it's just like a blow-up situation, they would have found more debris.
Luggage floats.
Right.
That black hole. I mean,
like Lord of the Flies, they would have had their asses on an island doing
they could.
shit.
And that's the thing. I mean, who knows? A lot of people think that the government has landed them somewhere, taken them hostage. There's a lot of crazy theories. Mm-hmm. Who knows?
So, like in season 3, that island in Lost moved. That could have been where it moved.
that was actually they pointed that out in one of the theories too. Was it was a lost-like island that they landed on and it just vanished.
Ooh. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah,
because that island moves.
Is Lost based on? Did this happen before Lost or
this Lost was over years ago?
Yeah. I know, but this was back in 2014. Oh yeah, I guess this was way after, huh?
I was in the Navy.
Yeah, you were still in the
Navy.
But
that was a theory, was that they landed on a lost-like island and then everyone just vanished with the island when it moved.
I think I'm going with it. I'm changing my vote to
the Lost Island.
I like Hurley.
Who doesn't like Hurley?
I know, right?
I've never even watched it.
Oh, it's all right. Don't watch the last couple of seasons.
You should have watched everything but the last couple of seasons. And he's never even showed me any of it. Everybody else has been borrowing it all.
It's only good for about 3 seasons, and then after that,
when the writers strike.
Yeah, the writer's strike is what ruined Hollywood for like
it's what ruined
2
Lost.
years.
Yep.
And Heroes, and there's like 3 other shows that just...
Heroes came back.
I haven't watched
it
yet.
off subject, but...
haven't watched it yet. Anyway, so I guess this is going to do it for our Flight 370 investigation.
And if I disappear after you air this episode, you know I was right, okay?
You know, Tyler was right if he disappears.
Because I went to black hole.
Yeah.
Tyler just vanishes. Him and his
like,
house
hope
and
you
everything.
can play Pokemon in the black hole.
I gotta catch Pikachu.
We are heavily into Pokemon Go, if you haven't figured it out yet by this episode and a couple other ones.
Yeah.
Alright, so I guess that's going to do it. Everyone say goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Later.
Kids Explain Everything.
Hello, and welcome to Kids Explain Everything. I'm your host, Toby, and with me as always, I've got my little co-host. What's your name, little co-host?
Gibson.
And how old are you, Gibson?
7.
7? You're still 7?
Yes, I've been going on everything.
Do what?
I'm going on all of these podcasts.
You're going on all our podcasts?
Yes.
You're taking them over, aren't you?
Yep.
So, I got a question for you. How could you make an airplane disappear? Is that crazy? Do you think airplanes can disappear?
Yeah.
How?
The cartoon one.
The cartoon? How do they disappear in the cartoon?
Wonder Woman's.
Wonder Woman's? Well, hers is invisible.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm glad that you know that. Nerd. Give me 5, nerd. Yeah.
You're a nerd. Nerd.
Yo. So how is hers invisible?
I don't know how to turn it into invisible.
Yeah? Well, how can you make a plane in real life disappear?
I don't know.
Are planes dangerous to fly in?
Some. If you being a soldier, it can be really dangerous.
Right, like the fighter planes that shoot at each other.
Yeah, that would be more dangerous.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be a soldier. I don't really want to. I just I don't know. I want to be a police officer. Cause I think bad guys will shoot me.
Nah, they might shoot you, but I don't know.
But I need glass.
But you're behind glass?
Yeah.
Oh, in the cop car?
Yeah, we'll open if in real life if you shoot a gun of a bullet at a glass, can the glass really break?
Can it break the bullet? Yeah, unless it's bulletproof. You got to get bulletproof glass.
Ugh.
Yeah. So do you want to fly a plane instead?
No. I hate.
Well, how do you make a plane disappear?
I don't know.
Can they disappear?
I think so. I don't know.
But where do they go if they disappear?
Bobby had someone's face and went over them.
Someone's face?
Yeah.
I don't think you know what you're talking about anymore. I think you lied to me about being a professional and disappearing planes.
When come back and went at his face.
Yeah.
And went over them.
You're a weirdo, you
It
know
went
that?
over.
You're really weird.
It went over a cat.
Why would it run over a cat?
And good.
You're weird.
It went over the went over everything. Went over the store, grabbing it by the feet and throw it around.
You have no idea what
And
you're
throw
talking about.
everything, And throw everything and grab it and throw everything. And it will come in your house, grab everything, and still throw it at your face.
Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up, okay, buddy? Because you're getting crazy. Well, let's say goodbye.
Oh, goodbye.
See you next time.
See you next time. Kids are playing everything.
And that's going to do it for Malaysia Flight 370. Next week, we're going to be covering the JFK conspiracy. And let me tell you, there's a ton of different conspiracies. But until then, if you wouldn't mind, go subscribe to us on iTunes, give us a 5-star review, and say some nice stuff. You can also find our show on Stitcher, Google Play, Satchel, and YouTube. You just got to search for Secret Transmission Podcast. You can also catch our show every Sunday at 10 p.m. on the Podcast Radio Network. 10 p.m. Eastern. Let me make sure you got the time zone right. Eastern time. All you have to do is go to podcastradionetwork.net and you can check us out there. We'd love it if you'd leave us a voicemail. Give us some topics. You can give us some experiences. Anything you'd like. Just give us a call. 304-602-7444. You can follow us on Twitter at SecretTransPod, or you can send us an email, secrettransmission@hotmail.com. And that's about it. We hope you come back and listen to us try to explain the unexplainable. I hate doing the intro. I wish someone else would.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show.
Oh, see, I've already done that.
Then what are you waiting for?
I always do the, I am your host.
I'll be the host today.
Give her the laptops.
Yeah, you can do all that.
No! I am your co-host.
There you go.
Loophole.
Goodbye, Roger.